Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm actually going to go over something with you that I keep mentioning in brief bits and pieces here and there in my most recent videos, and we are going to talk about my Mother Academia track. Now, if you're new here, I am a homeschooling mom to a kindergartner and a second grader, and we utilize the Charlotte Mason philosophy in our education within our homeschool. And over the last couple months or two, I've been kind of a little jealous that my kids get to learn all these amazing things and read all this wonderful literature. And I actually stumbled across a channel called The Commonplace, and I think her name is Autumn. She was the one talking about having her own Mother Academia track. And I just thought that was such a wonderful idea, because just because we're out of school doesn't mean we stop learning. It's what I preach to my kids, so I should probably start practicing what I preach. So with that, the liberal arts track that Autumn over at The Commonplace had created for herself, what I thought was absolutely wonderful. It's a full liberal arts college degree, essentially, just doing it on our own. I am not in a position to do that fully right now. My kids are young and very needy, and I have very little me time as it is. So I have to use those precious few hours and minutes that I get to myself a little bit more judiciously. So I've done a more smaller version, a lighter version of what she has created. And I want to share that with you guys. I've gotten a few comments from y'all saying that you'd be very much interested in seeing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how I'm organizing it. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So first off, the bulk of what I'm doing is reading. I'm really just reading. I am using narration in written narration form, aka taking notes or writing down quotes, or I'm actually narrating back the passages that I'm reading of the books I'm reading. And the way that I decided what to focus on for myself was I kind of took it in two tracks. One, classical literature. I wanted to read a lot of good classic books. And two, I wanted to delve further into understanding not only the Charlotte Mason philosophy of education, but our history of education as a whole and everything that kind of goes in between there. So that's kind of how I created my two tracks of reading of what I'm doing right now. I am organizing it in Trello, so I will absolutely be flipping the camera around and showing you a screenshot of my computer. But right now, just kind of tell you what I'm doing at this moment before I show you my long-term syllabus and the things that I'm reading. I'm reading 3 books in tandem at this very moment as I film this video. And I'm doing it kind of like Charlotte Mason does with our kiddos. Short little blips every day. I read no more than, 30 minutes a day, and I'm plowing through these books, which is awesome. But I'm being consistent about my reading. So right before I go to bed, I set aside 30 minutes of time, and then I do a little meditation, and then I go to sleep. So the 3 that I'm reading at present, well, I'll show you the first one I'm reading, has to do with that Charlotte Mason and education track. I am reading through Charlotte Mason's Home Education, which is her first volume that she wrote. She actually wrote 6 volumes in total, and I plan to read all of them at some point, but I'm starting off with number 1, and I think after this I will be moving on to number 6, which is the philosophy of education. Home education talks about educating your children, I think, up through the age of 9. And then the 6th volume is a philosophy of education, and from my understanding, that's talking about educating children older than 9. So I thought, start with this one, finish with that one, and then I can go back to the books in between. So first, reading this. It is older English, so it is a little harder to understand, having been so used to reading a lot of books in modern English. So I am taking my time with this. I am digesting everything she is saying just to make sure I truly understand what she has written. So far, really enjoying this. She's got a lot of good tidbits in there. The second book I am reading is also in that education track, and this is actually one I read 2 years ago, I think. It's been a minute, and I wanted to reread it starting this whole Mother Academia, because I thought that I remember it being a really good book, and I really wanted to look at it with new eyes now that I've been homeschooling for 1.5 years now, and just kind of really take my time and write notes down, because before I just read through it, I didn't take my time writing notes. I didn't narrate back to myself. And I think this had a lot of good nuggets in it that I wanted to get back out of it. So this one is Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. He was a previous school teacher in the New York State public education system, and he just talks about how our education system is broken, frankly. And he talks about all the nuances of it, the history of it, and I just think this is just a really solid read. And it's not terribly long either. See, it's not super thick, so definitely recommend this. So plowing through this one again. And then the third book I'm reading, which I'm very excited about because I've not read it all the way through, is 1984. This is actually a book my husband got me. It's a I lost the jacket if you can't tell. It's a double book by George Orwell. It's Animal Farm at the front of the book and then 1984 at the back of the book. So I am reading 1984 to start with. I figure while I'm, saying down with the system from an education perspective, why not bring in the government while I'm at it? If you're not familiar with 1984, it was written back in the 1950s, I believe, and it's about a society. They're based in England, actually, about a society that where the government basically takes over, rewrites history, rewrites everything. There's a lot of intrigue, a lot of spying kind of things going on, people turning against people, neighbor against neighbor, kid against mom. I remember that was one of the things that happened. It's wild. So many crazy things, but I hate to say it, a lot that could be applied to today's goings-ons. But so that's my classic literature read that I'm reading right now. So those three, and then what I do after each reading, not the classical literature, that I'm not going to narrate to myself. I'm not going to write notes about it. I'm just going to enjoy it and ingest it. With the other two books, I have a notebook that I am writing down quotes that I think are really important, narrations myself, anything that I just want to remember. I know it sounds really weird, but I hate highlighting, dog-earing actual books. It makes me I feel so bad for the book. I know that's totally unnecessary and I totally could do it in the book, but I also find that if I put it in a notebook versus in the book, I'm able to find it a lot easier than trying to flip through the pages of the book to find that one quote that I'm trying to find. So we're going the notebook route, pen and paper. I'm going to flip us around now and get into my computer and show you what it looks like in Trello, how I've organized everything, and the additional books that I will be reading beyond these. So once these are over, what am I going to read next? And that's it. I know it doesn't seem very schooly, but as we are adults, as we get older, and even as a child, now that I'm homeschooling, I'm realizing schooling isn't really what we think it should be. This is how I learn: reading, digesting, writing notes, talking to my husband about it. That's like basically another form of narration, is re-talking to him about it after I've written it down, and just going over these really great concepts and information. So that is education. That is learning in a nutshell. So it's not really high tech or fancy. It just is what it is. It's reading good literature and books. So let's flip it around. I'm going to show you in my computer how I've organized everything and what I'm going to be doing moving forward and where I've gotten my resources from too. All right, y'all. So here is Trello. If you're not familiar with Trello, at a high level, it is a project management tool that allows you to organize and maintain things for free like this. There is a paid version, but I think that's wholly unnecessary. I've gotten along just fine with the free version with no issues. So if you want to know more about the logistics of Trello, I have a whole playlist on it. I've done so many videos. I'll leave that up here in the top right corner. Go ahead and check those out to get more information on that. Now, starting here, we are in the Mother Academia workspace that I've created, and I have two boards. I have a Mother Academia at Home board, which I'm currently in, and then I have a second one up here, which is our Liberal Arts board. That's going to be more for me, a little bit more intensive down the road when I have a little bit more free time to myself. My kiddos are more independent and don't need me as much. Right now, we're doing the Mother Academia at Home because that's what I have time for. That's what I've created for myself. Now, you'll see I have quite a few lists here. I have my reading list. So this is anything that isn't classical literature. This is everything to do with learning about education. And then I have a list that has all my literature reads on it that I want to read. And then I have my reading now list. So I already went over this. I'm reading Dumbing Us Down, Home Education, and then George Orwell, 1984. And then my plan is, so what I can do is I can move these over back and forth as needed. My plan is to, when I complete it, add it here. So when I'm done at the end of the year or next year, I can look back and see everything that I have read. Now, this last tab here is more my resources. There's not a lot here, but I thought it was important to, here, I'm going to click into this, current academic focus. Before I started creating my lists of what I wanted to read, I thought it was important to write out a description of what I wanted to learn. Because if I don't know what I'm trying to learn, I don't know what my end goal is, it was really hard for me to figure out what kind of books should I be incorporating into my syllabus and my academics. So for me, this may not be edited correctly, I'll read it out loud, but this is what I came up with. To become more comfortable and knowledgeable about Charlotte Mason and her teaching philosophy in time to implement it to the best of my ability, starting with Emory and Charlotte's first and third grade year. So that's next school year. So basically I've given myself a timeline here. I want to get all this read by next, we'll say June, July, before the next school year starts, so that I may not only provide them with an outstanding education, but that I also may endeavor to create a lifestyle that nurtures independence, a love of learning, and encourages growth as a contributing citizen to society. And then in addition, I would like to expand my knowledge. I meant to say my knowledge. See, I told you this wasn't edited right. In addition, I would like to expand my knowledge by through our literature experiences by reading from the great books list, starting with 5 classics, which I have picked out. One of them is 1984, some of which I have read and some of which I may have not. I will be juggling a handful of books at one time, as Charlotte Mason recommends, and will create a schedule that runs from November to next November. Okay, so I did get myself, I forgot, until next November. However, the Charlotte Mason reads I would like to have completed by next June, July, because then the school year starts for us again next year. Now, then I go here, I can add lists. And so here's the greatest books of all time. There are 384 books on this list. And there are quite a few out there. This is just the one I picked. I'll click into it so you can see it. It's literally thegreatestbooks.org. And there's quite a few on here. I won't bore you and scroll through all of them. But if we go back to Trello, that's where I got a lot of my book choices from for my literature reads. So I chose to go with 1984 just because it felt apropos with the election coming up and just thought it was kind of a good one to read at this time. But then also next, I would like to read The Great Gatsby, which I read back in high school, but I haven't read it since. So I'd be interested to look at it with new, fresh adult eyes. Next, after that, Anna Karenina. I have not read this, but I heard it's very good. Tolstoy is an author I have not read. I've heard he's pretty wordy, so this might take me a bit to get through, but I am kind of excited about this one. Wuthering Heights. I have never read Wuthering Heights. How insane is that? And then round it all out with a good classic, Pride and Prejudice, which I have read. So those are the 5 that I'm starting from my classic books list, and then I'll just work my way through it as time allows. Coming over here, I have my reading list for my education track. So I have A Philosophy of Education up next. That's volume 6 from Charlotte Mason. For the children's sake, I have heard this is a really good read. If you love Charlotte Mason, you need to read it. Before all of Charlotte Mason's volumes were published, this is actually how a lot of people found out about Charlotte Mason. This one I have, and I've read before, but I just want to do a quick read through. It's a quick read. It's a how-to manual. It's basically Charlotte Mason broken down in SparkNotes version. That is the best way to explain it. It is such a good read. If you want to do Charlotte Mason education and implement it, get this book. It'll make things seem so much simpler than than it seems to be in those books. It seems a lot of fluff. This breaks it down into a quick, easy, digestible way to read, and then you can implement it quickly. Next, I want to read Consider This. It's by Karen Glass, Charlotte Mason, and then the classical tradition. I've heard this is also another wonderful read if you're going to be implementing Charlotte Mason, but also if you like the classical style of education, which I do. So we'll be reading that. Know and Tell. And by the way, this is not in a specific order. So I might be reading this before I read this. I haven't decided yet. But next is Know and Tell by Karen Glass, The Art of Narration, How to Teach Your Children Shakespeare, which we are reading at present, and the girls are loving it. And then I also want to read the Handbook of Nature Study, the introduction portion. This is a new edition that has been released by Living Books Press. The original Handbook of Nature is a very thick, hulking big book that you have to carry around with you if you're out in nature. Well, Living Book Press realized that maybe it would be better if they printed out smaller subsections of the book, and they also included beautiful illustrations, or not illustrations, pictures in it of nature, whereas the original book just has black and white illustrations. So I'm reading first the introduction. This was free, an e-file that was free off of Living Book Press. You can go get it right now if you're listening to this recently. They have it on there. You just download it for free and you can go ahead and read it. Now the rest of the books, like Earth, Sky, bugs, flowers and gardens and things like that, you would have to purchase those separately. But I want to read the introduction to Handbook of Nature. And then another one I've heard is a really good read is Let Them Be Kids. Adventure, boredom, innocence, and other gifts children need. I think it kind of brings us back to basics of our own childhood. One last thing I wanted to mention before I kind of delve just quickly into the liberal arts workspace over there is that if you click into here, so if you click into one of these, I've also broken this out by checklist of what I'm reading, so I can check it off once I've read it so that I know where to pick up with the next one. I've also broken it out into how many pages is it, how many chapters, what's my speed that I'm trying to read it in, so one chapter to be read every other day over 22 days. You'll see, for example, like down here for 1984, same thing. And this just kind of keeps me on track so I don't get lost, since I am reading 3 books at the same time. On top of that, I might throw in a personal read just for fun here and there. So that might be 4 books at once. So to keep my place in each of the books, I've done that to make it easier for me. Now let's go over to the liberal arts logistics. I haven't done a ton in here. However, per Autumn over at the Commonplace, I did go ahead and link to Notre Dame's list for a liberal arts education. This basically gives you the syllabus of what students would be learning in liberal studies education over at Notre Dame. And so basically, I just have to read these, and I'm going to essentially get the same information that they are. Obviously, it's a little different because I'm by myself, but I think this will be a really great thing for me to try to do when the girls kind of get into middle school, just when they're a little bit more independent and don't need mom quite as much, and I have a little bit more free time. So that's my plan. I've also kind of just thrown something in here for my girls, because I think we'll start trying to attack Latin maybe 5th or 6th grade. Maybe I'll wait till middle school just to make life easier for me. But I've heard Wheelock's Latin is a good one, so I just threw that in there, not only for myself, but just to remember that this is the one I think I want to give a shot when I started with my girls. And that's it, guys. I mean, it's not too crazy. It's just keeping me on track for the things that I want to learn. And I'm really excited about this. It's something for me because I love learning. Okay, guys, I hope that was helpful, looking at my Trello board, seeing how I'm organizing everything, what I plan to do in the future, etc. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions about anything I talked about today, what I plan to do in the future, etc., leave those down in the comments. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.